today we have a very special guest, Bill Radakovitz of Auburn, California. He is an entrepreneur, a fellow Rotarian, served in the U.S. Air Force. He's also a pilot, real estate investor. And this year, you and Nancy are going to celebrate 62 years. 62-year anniversary.
Yeah.
You have 2 sons, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. You're still very active, busy man.
You've done your research.
Well, in the last 2 years, I got to know you a little, and I feel honored to know you, and I feel honored to do this today. But for those who don't know you, if you could please give them a little bit of your background. Who's Bill Radakovitz?
Well, let's see. I was actually born in Portland, Oregon. I've got I had a brother and 2 sisters. We moved down to L.A., Granada Hills in the Valley for my dad's work, and went to high school there, first in Glendale and then over in Granada Hills. And not long after I graduated from high school, I didn't want to go right back into school, so I went in the Air Force. And I became, over a period of time in Texas, I was transferred from one school to the next, and I became what they call an aeromedical specialist. I did all the physical exams on the pilots and navigators out at Mather Air Force Base. Wow. EKGs, drew their blood in the morning, did EKGs, x-rays, eye exams, hearing tests, the whole works, for 4 years there. And then when I got out, I looked for work, our first son was born in 62, and I got out of the Air Force in 65, and we managed an apartment complex and found out my wife was pregnant with our second son. I'm thinking, this is overwhelming. You know, I'm still a pretty young guy, and she's a young mom. She was 15 when we got married, so it doesn't get much younger than that.
You can't do that these days.
We had forged her birth certificate so that we could get married in a little town called Stevenson, Washington. And it was an interesting point. I didn't realize until just recently that my mother got married when she turned 17, also in Stevenson, Washington. And
so it runs in the family.
Yeah, because you only had to, and I didn't know that all these years. I mean, my mom has since died, and I didn't know that that's where she got married as well.
Was that kind of typical back then?
I guess, more so than now, sure.
Yeah,
there weren't a lot of options for people back then. You know, you got married, you got a job, you got married, you raised a family, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's so many more opportunities for people. It's different. So in any event, I ended up getting a job. I worked at hospitals for a while, and then I ended up getting a job handling injury claims for AAA insurance. And they sent me to Auburn. That's how I ended up in Auburn. And I had Auburn, Grass Valley, and Placerville, all 3 locations. And I investigated injury accidents and handled injury claims, prepared files for litigation and that sort of thing. So that's what I did for 12 years. And they transferred me up to Auburn, and we bought our first house in Rockland. Auburn was actually a lot more expensive back then than the same house in Rockland.
Mm.
And so we found a house in Rockland. It was a fairly new home in a new development down there, and $19,000. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Had a pool put in and back, and got involved in the community. And before I knew it, I was on the city council down there.
So back then, like when you're buying a house for $19,000, was that considered pretty affordable, or was it still considered pretty expensive based on those salaries?
Affordable, I think. You know.
I mean, what was the average annual salary back then?
Probably around $15,000 a year, $15,000 to $20,000 a year.
Wow! So you look at a new house for $19,000 and an average salary $15,000. That's not a lot of spread between. But right
No,
now,
that's true.
it's like the cost of housing is way up here.
Way
compared
more
to-
than,
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you made about the same amount of money in a year that the house would cost you.
Yeah. Wow.
Try doing that now.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You have to be like a doctor or
Yeah.
engineer to make that kind of income.
Yeah.
Because even right now, starter home right now is around $500,000. Anything less is like it's not a nice location.
There are still homes out there under 400,000, but they're usually gobbled up pretty soon if they're in pretty good shape.
Oh yeah. But in Auburn, like there's really nothing
Yeah.
around that price. Okay, so but what you said you went to Air Force, was that your decision? Is it like why did you choose Air Force, and why did you choose to go into military?
Well, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to go right back into school, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a little research, and it looked like they offered me opportunity to get some experience, some life experience, and move forward. And I went to school, a night school, while I was in the Air Force. Took several classes, and after I got out, I finished up my bachelor's degree at Sac State, and then moved into the master's program as well.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing that, I was also on the city council in Rockland. We were raising 2 boys. And then we opened up our record store in 1972. And that was a whole different ball game then. So I had all these balls I was juggling, and the boys were in Little League. And thank goodness I have a great wife who's very supportive, and she took that on. She didn't really want to do that. She had other plans for herself. She wanted to teach at a junior college level or something, and she was taking classes at Sierra College. And she was willing to set all that aside and run the record store. And so I thought, well, what name should we call the record store? Well, obviously, it ended up being Nancy's Record Store. And we grew from a small store in the Livingston building in 1972, and we went from there to Placerville and opened a store there. And then we opened up a third store over in what was called the Bel Air Center there on 49.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 3 stores, and I was, again, still working for AAA, investigating accidents and working on my degree, my master's degree. It's just exhausting when I think about it now. I mean, I don't know how I did all that. I don't know how my wife did it all.
And you were in your 30s?
Well, we were young.
Was this in your 20s or already 30s?
Well, let's see. I was born in 42, so
in the 70s,
I was 30 years old.
30. How did you come across opening a record store? Was that
my brother? He and his wife owned Dimple Records in the Sacramento area, and he was at that time distributing for a company called Picatoon, division of Transamerica. And he said, "How would you like to open up a record store? I can get you all this music, these records." And of course, back then it was 8-track tapes, if you remember, and vinyl. And it was not long after Woodstock, and I was kind of caught up in that whole thing, and so was he. I mean, a lot of people were. The music was great, it was a wonderful time to be in that industry, and so we did that for a couple years, and I started seeing the change take place when they moved from 8-tracks to cassettes, then from cassettes to CDs, then from CDs to DVDs, and then to online
digital
product.
Yeah.
I was tired of having to completely redo my entire inventory with a different technology each time, And but we really enjoyed the experience. We made a lot of friends locally, we were a Bass ticket outlet, and so we were selling tickets for all the concerts that came to what was then the Arco Arena down in Sacramento. And we would, for special acts like Neil Diamond or Elton John, we would charter a bus, and we would stock the bus with drinks, have a bar in there, and we would have videos playing, and we would take people down to the Arco Arena and drop them off at the front step and then pick them up. And the thing that really worked well for us is, as we were notified as soon as tickets went on sale, and we would just start punching out tickets. We weren't waiting for people to come up to the counter and tell us what they wanted. We just started punching out because the tickets go from front center out and they fan out. So we were able to get really good seats for people, right front, center, and out. And actually, I got a call from Bass out of San Francisco saying, "You guys are our leading, ticket seller here at this point. What's going on up there?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. We're just busy. We got lots of people here." And people would camp out overnight around the block. At that point, we had moved into what was then a Sprouse Reitz variety store, and we redid it all. And we had a lot of room, and I wasn't sure how we were going to fill it with product, but it didn't take long, and we did. We had a lot of stuff. We had an arcade back there in the back. We had a recording studio in the back.
Oh, wow.
Lots of posters, lots of T-shirts, clothing, I mean, everything. And it was a fun time for us. We were busy, but it was fun. So anyway, like I said, I ended up on the city council, and then I ended up joining Rotary. Joined the chamber first in 1972.
Auburn Chamber?
Auburn Chamber,
okay.
When we opened our record store. And then I decided to do more with the community at large. They had paid me. It was payback time, basically. I wanted to contribute back to a community that had supported us. And so I did that as best I could. I got on the hospital board and the SPCA board, and we just kept forging ahead and kept things under control, and made a good life for ourselves and our sons.
So what year was it that you actually moved to Auburn?
We moved to Auburn in 2002. And about that same time, my parents had just passed, and we bought a home over in Deer Ridge, North Auburn. And I had property next to DeWitt, the county center, and I ended up getting 38 lots there, paper lots, and we sold those and bought rentals down in Sun City and Whitney Oaks, and moved to Auburn and remained involved with the chamber and the people here. We have never considered leaving the area because we just fell in love with Auburn and had all of our friends and raised our family in this area, and it's been good to us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this community, because that was a similar experience for us when we first discovered Auburn. It was 2008. My wife Tatiana and we got married, and we lived on this beautiful piece of property in right by the Lake of the Pines, but on the other side of 49. There was a property that one of our relatives purchased, but he didn't buy it at the right time, and they were going through a short sale / foreclosure process. And the house, it was a brand new house. It was sitting there. Nobody lived in it. the builder just finished building the house, and
That was when?
that was in 2008.
Oh, okay.
And so when we heard about it, the guy, he told us, he's like, hey, if you guys want, you guys can maybe live there for a month or two while we're in the process, because we don't want any squatters to come in there, you know.
Right.
And so we said, sure. We got married, we moved in there, and we were hoping to live there for a couple months until we find rent somewhere. Well, we ended up living there for 1 year. That's how long, back then, that's how long the process took.
Yeah.
Whether it was a short sale or a foreclosure. There were so many properties that were being foreclosed on,
Yeah, we
that
went through
they
a
were
dip.
just dragging
Yeah.
it on. So, but when we lived there, that's, you know, I was still in college. I went to Sierra College. That's how we met Bob Litchfield. He was teaching business law at Sierra, and he kind of introduced us to Don Whitaker and other people of Auburn. And as we're living in Auburn, we're like, you know what? This is such a cool place. Maybe one day we're gonna find something here to, you know, buy and move in here. Well, in 2017, we found the lot where we live right now. We built a house, and when we moved in 2020, I mean, it's just, this place has been amazing. The people, the community, local businesses, you know, I mean, just everyone is so inviting, so generous, so connected. So how is Auburn to you? Like, what about Auburn that you like a lot? Besides,
Well,
of course, like the beautiful landscape,
Yeah.
the hiking trails and all that, the hills.
It's a healthy community. People are really into health here.
Mm-hmm.
They're into exercise and eating right, and I'm not quite so fascinated with either one of those things enough so that I'm going to change my lifestyle, but I work at it a little bit, you know, and enough so that I'm still pretty healthy, and I'll be 82 in November. But we just like the attitude that people have, the healthy attitude they have about life here. And I'm not a city boy. I never have been. I couldn't stand living in the city.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't like a lot of traffic, you know. So I need a little bit of elbow room.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, when we moved to Rockland back in 1968 and bought our first house, as I said, down there, the population was only 2,500 people.
In Rockland.
Yeah. And we had pastures around where our development was, where people were raising cows, you know, cattle, you know. And it was a different world. Now it's 80,000. So my son lives down there, and my other son lives in Folsom. But it's just changed so much, and I wouldn't want to live back down there now with all the traffic and all the development and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So we like where we are. Yeah.
Is there anything about Auburn that maybe you can share, maybe something that a lot of people don't know? If something either happened or you discovered?
Oh, well, yeah. You know, we used to have the black and white ball the chamber put on. We would shut down the streets in downtown Auburn, and it would go on all night long. And we would invite pretty famous rock bands, people that would come in from Reno, performing in Reno. One instance, we went up to get them from Reno to bring them down to Auburn, and they had made all these demands on us for food and drinks and all this. We had to set up a special bar, and the ladies went up to get them in a van and bring them down to Auburn. And they weren't real happy about that. They didn't want anybody from Auburn to be there, especially the women, and told the women just to keep their mouths shut and not say or do anything, you know. And the ladies were really embarrassed and not happy about the attitude that these artists had. If I could remember the name of the group, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Remember Blood, Sweat, and Tears?
I don't
Okay,
know.
well, anyway, they were the group, and these parties would go on till all hours of the night. And my wife and I decided on one occasion we would stay overnight upstairs at our building that we had, where we had our record store.
Mm-hmm.
We had a sofa up there that came out into a bed, and we were asleep. About 2 o'clock in the morning, they decided to take the tents down, where the stage is down outside our building. So all these metal poles were clank, 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 and anyway, we didn't get much sleep that night.
Yeah. Well, Bill, it sounds like you have done a lot. You're pretty successful. Can you share something that guided you to being where you are? Did you have any mentors in your life? Maybe someone who you looked up to?
I think in my Rotary Club, Bob Litchfield is a man I highly respect, and we've gone camping together. He took his motor home, we took our trailer, and I think there were some people long ago, I can't even remember their names now, but in Rockland when I was on the city council that worked with me, and Roy Rucola, who was born and raised in the Rockland area, and he had a lot of pastures and cows, and he was a terrific guy. Speaking of cows, we had a little bit of a problem where we lived because we had the pastures next to our house.
Mm-hmm.
And the cows would come out, they'd make it through the fence sometimes, and they'd get into our neighborhood, and they'd wander around, and they'd thrash up against the landscape and everything and tear up the yards. So we called the police, and they sent an officer out. I was on the city council at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he came rushing out. What's the problem? Well, he had a little bit of a speech impediment. He stuttered.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Bill, what's going on? We said, well, these cows are out here, they're tearing things up. And he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? And we said, well, could you get them back inside the pasture? So he got on the bullhorn and he goes, moo. And of course, that didn't help much.
They didn't follow him? The cows did not follow him?
No. It took all of us. We had to all go out. All the neighbors pushed the cows back in and got them back inside the pasture and tried to fix it. But
speaking of cows, it reminds me when I was in Ukraine, I helped my grandpa watch over a herd of cows, and most of them were, people in our village. Each owned at least one cow, two cows, and he would gather all of them into the fields and just kind of watch over them as they grazed. And I remember, I think I was like 7 years old, and my grandpa used to like to take naps in the middle of the day. I was like religiously took naps, at least for like 10, 15 minutes. And he tried to make me, but at 7 years old, you can't make
too much energy.
Yeah. So he took a nap under this tree, and I'm sitting there and just observing the cows. And then I'm watching how like 3 or 4 cows from a different herd came running to our herd. And I'm not understanding what the heck is going on. And I'm watching, and all of a sudden, a group of cows from our herd started chasing them and just took off. When I saw what was happening, I started yelling, screaming, waking Grandpa up, and he got up, he's looking, he's like, oh, he's like, he got mad, but then he's like, he calmed me down because I thought, I was responsible. I should have, stopped this from happening. And I just remember that moment because during that day, when the evening came, we started gathering all the cows, and they
Yeah.
all went back home. And some of the people started coming over to my grandpa's house and say, "Hey, where's my cow? My
Oh.
cow didn't come home."
How long
So-
did you live in Ukraine?
I was 8 when we moved here.
Oh,
So
okay.
8 years. I finished first grade. But I remember stuff like this. You remember. You don't
Oh, yeah.
forget, And back then when you were 7, 8, you had a lot of responsibilities. Now
Yeah.
I think kids, teenagers, they probably don't.
Well, of course, Ukraine is going through a lot of hard times right now too. It's
Yeah,
a different world,
it is. Yeah,
and not just in Ukraine, but all over. It seems like there's conflict. It's just
you're right. It's not just in Ukraine.
no,
Anywhere
it's
you
just-
look,
I don't
it's-
know what's happening, but it's sure pretty frightening. You wonder if it'll ever end up coming to this country. And
Well, even our country. I mean, look how divided we got. I remember
Oh,
when
yeah.
we came here in 1993, things were somewhat, or maybe it kind of seemed that they were like that to us, kind of peaceful. People, were. I did not really see this kind of division in the 90s.
oh no, it just seems like this is all pretty recent.
Yeah, yeah.
What's happening right now? I mean, we had the Vietnam War way back when, but I don't think we ever feared for our country here with what was going on in Vietnam. We lost a lot of men and women in that fight. You wonder, sometimes if it was a legitimate cause for us to lose what we did over there, but not like now, and especially with the weapons that are available now,
Mm-hmm.
and how easy it is to send weapons across oceans. Pretty scary time.
Well,
for people.
America did leave a lot of weapons behind in Afghanistan. I heard. I don't know
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
how much, but they said
Yeah.
billions of weapon or dollars worth of weapons. And I mean, I'm sure that they're not going into just regular people's hands who are just trying to defend themselves from their corrupt governments. They probably end up being in the wrong hands.
And a lot of people that we said we would support, we wouldn't let that happen to them, and we deserted them. That was not a good situation at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, this country, as divided as it is really a concern for everybody. All I can think of as a solution is for us to think about what's really important and move forward and support those aspects of our political system that we know are here to support us. That are here not to support themselves, but to support us.
To me, it seems like there are some things that are very, common sense things, and it seems as if though somebody is trying to, take away the common sense and put in certain things that doesn't really align with most of the people's values and principles
Yeah.
of this country. And sometimes I ask, like, is there some kind of I don't know, maybe some kind of a power or intention somewhere that is doing this to break this country apart? Because, I mean, no, wherever you go, even right now, with things being the way they are, you travel to another country, right? And you always want to come back home if you're an American citizen, because you still realize that America is still the best country, the best place to live, the safest place, the one that has a lot of opportunity. Like, I look at what this country has done for us. This country has embraced us. We came here with nothing at all, not knowing the language. And a lot of people, like hundreds of thousands of people that came from Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, all these European countries, they come here and most of them are well off. Learned the language really quickly, found a job, a career, built a business, and became successful, raised a family. But so I think it's still like that beacon of hope this country is for the whole world. but it does to me right now more often. I look at it and it seems like there is some kind of a force that is trying to break it apart.
Yeah, you wonder about biblical prophecy, with all the things that are going on in the world right now. I do know that a lot of opportunity is still here for people if you're willing to put out the effort that it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in my case, I was fortunate because I had a wife that was there to work with me so we could move forward as a team, and that's made a good life for us and made it a lot easier to be successful. When I was running for city council, she and the boys were right there with me, going door to door, asking for the vote. And we got a little carried away on occasion. We were actually voting outside. We were going to houses outside the city limits, and I didn't realize it at the time. But she's always been there for me, and it's been good.
Tatiana and I, next month, we're going to celebrate our 16-year anniversary. And when I look at people who were able to keep their marriage and be together for especially as long as you and Nancy have, I respect that. I admire that. What is the secret of such a long, healthy relationship? Every time I see you guys together, I still see you guys are still in love. What is that? What's the secret?
I don't know. I really haven't done my part probably to the extent that I think I should have, but she's held up her end, and we, you have disagreements along the way, of course, but she was raised in a home, in a situation where she had no food. Her father was on the road all the time, and a series of housekeepers and women that he'd bring in to take care of the kids, and it was not a healthy situation at all. And there were a lot of things going on in her house that were not good, and her dad was never home. And my parents moved around a lot, always trying to outrun the bill collectors. And so both of us knew what we didn't want, and we were willing to do whatever it took to not end up living like our parents lived.
Do you think maybe that plays a role in life when you are actually exposed to something like that, and you know that that's not what you want, so you build your life
right
in a different way?
I think sometimes people succumb to that and take the attitude that's all there is, and they aren't willing to do anything about it because they feel like that's their destiny or something, I guess. I don't know. But there's so, like you said before, there's so much opportunity here to move forward and get an education and get involved with the community, and along the way, make a living. And for some people who are willing to go the little extra mile, they can become very successful. I've got friends here that I've grown up with over the last several years that have done quite well for themselves, and now they're retired and living the good life, and that's all you can ask for,
Bill, what would you say some of your values and principles that guided you in your life? Maybe some things that were just non-negotiable, like something that for you, like you had to just stay loyal to certain values and principles.
I think the way you treat other people and just your attitude about life, I think it carries you forward, and people react to that. And it's almost like a magnet, if you have a good, healthy attitude about life, people come to you. Other people who have similar attitudes are attracted to you and you're attracted to them. And I don't have a set of principles, etched in stone or anything. It's just trying to live a decent life and take a position of leadership on occasion when it's offered to you. I've been president of my Rotary Club. My wife has been president twice of her Rotary Club. And Rotary has had a profound influence on our life. We've made a lot of great friends over the years in Rotary, and we've done a lot of things in the community and elsewhere.
So, Bill, for those people who do not know what Rotary is, since you have been a Rotarian for so long and your wife, Nancy, can you briefly talk about what it means to you?
Well, Rotary is an international organization. They work towards peace, towards health, towards clean water, providing for people who can't possibly provide for themselves. And we've been involved in projects in Mexico, working with an orphanage down there. I took down 30 computers that I'd gotten from a health club that was updating their computer system.
Okay.
And had them transferred down to an orphanage in near Ensenada.
Mm-hmm.
We had been going down there for a number of years working with 1,000 Smiles program, which is a dental and cleft palate surgery operation. And we were going down there working with the kids and helping the doctors. And we were advised that there was an orphanage that was in need of computers and so on and so forth. Well, we took the computers down, and within just a few months, they were all gone. They just disappeared somehow. And we decided maybe a security wall would help, so we took that on as a project. And we built a cinder block wall around the outside of the orphanage. And the locals there thought that was kind of pretty funny to see these people, working, doing what they normally had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we noticed that there was sludge in the playground for the kids. It was affluent from the septic system that had failed. So we decided we would take that on. And we spent several years going down there and designed a system and built a system for the kids. And it was built to California requirements,
Mm-hmm.
this updated, modern system. And it worked pretty well for a while, but now my understanding is that somebody donated a lot of money to put a soccer field in right over the top of the whole system. So I don't know how well it's doing now, but anyway, it functioned for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kinds of things that Rotary does throughout the world. The big project is, of course, eliminating polio from the face of the earth. And, we send people into sometimes pretty difficult situations politically to give people immunizations against polio. And we've lost their lives when we've gone into situations where the government that we went in, the government where we went didn't want us interfering with their lifestyle, I guess, or something. I don't know what the issue was exactly, but we've lost people that were murdered by the military in some of those countries.
Like Rotarians?
Rotarians, yeah.
Wow.
So that's the extent that Rotarians are willing to go to help solve that particular issue and other issues, worldwide. So I feel very honored to be a part of that. And like I said, I joined her in 1984 and coming up on 40 years now.
Wow.
And we've done a lot of things locally. We put in recreational equipment and for kids in the parks, and we've painted houses. We've done a lot of local things that over the years as well. And it doesn't stop. It just, we just keep moving forward. And
Yeah, and there's like all these new things as we move through time that kind of evolve and pile on. Like right now, I think one of the big issues that I don't know if there's an answer to this is the mental issues
mm-hmm.
with so many, especially the younger generations, um, due to a lot of has to do with social media. I don't know if you there at the Rotary meeting where when this I forgot his name, Binus, Dr. Binus came
Yes.
by from Beautiful Minds.
Yes.
He talked about this a little bit, and like when I looked at the statistics, I can't recall exactly the numbers, but the percentage of like teenagers who are going through like severe depression, um, it's mind-boggling. And then suicide, of course, follows some of them. But just to get to a point where you have to just live your whole life on pills because you have,
And in some cases, fentanyl, which
oh
is
my
killing
gosh, the drugs.
so many young people.
Yes.
I mean, drugs, I'm not sure what the answer is, what you do about that situation. But all is not doom and gloom. I'm on the committee for scholarships for our club. We've got a lot of money set aside every year that we donate to kids that we feel are worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got several that we're going to be doing an oral interview now. We've reviewed their scholastic ability and all the other things, and we've graded them, and now we're doing the oral interview on the 4th of April. And we will give away over $20,000 to kids for their scholarship. And it is like a breath of fresh air to see these kids, what they've accomplished.
Yeah.
Their grades, in spite of, in many cases, really adverse situations at home. There was one young man, he and his mother living in their car. They're homeless. Straight A's and A pluses. It just, and you realize all is not lost. There's a lot of good kids out there. They're not all
Oh yeah.
bad.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. There, and that's why sometimes when I think about it, you shared a story how, you were growing up, Nancy,
Mhm.
and all those things going on. You still grow up and you realize what you don't want and you make commitment in your life to move towards a healthy lifestyle and doing great things for yourself, your family. But sometimes people, they don't do that, right? They actually look at that and say, well, I'm not the lucky one because I had all these issues growing up, right?
And you find excuses.
Yeah, and that's like the story that they are telling themselves for why they can't go out and become successful or do something good, right? And one of the thoughts behind the name, The Greatest Story Podcast, for this podcast was the fact that I think that stories have a lot to do with how we go about life. There are some stories that people believe, and they go through life believing a story that they made up, thinking about this is who they really are, and it really affects them in a negative way. And then there are sometimes those stories that really make a pivot in life. People make that pivot in life, and go forward in the positive trajectory. Can you share a story from your life, maybe something that you can recall, something that had a profound impact in your life?
Yeah, I had a professor at Sac State when I was working on my master's degree in psychology that had quite an influence on me. And of course, it was the middle of the Vietnam War, and so that was an issue that we had. But he was a very, very intelligent person and very sincere and giving. And we established a relationship with each other. We had him over at our house along with some other students.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have dinner for everybody, and that experience for me, I think, opened up my eyes to the possibility. I was on the city council, I think, at the time. Maybe not. No, I hadn't. I hadn't been on the city council. I was approached by some neighbors to do that, and that's how I ended up on the city council. You know what was over? It's the craziest thing. They wanted me to get on the city council because a developer had come into our development, the Woodside subdivision down there, and was putting in asphalt shingles. And up to that point, we had wood shingles.
Wood shake. Oh, yeah.
Shake
yeah.
roofs.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody got together and put together this money. I think my whole campaign fund was like $300 or something to get on the city council. And we took on this developer and went after him. The city went after him and everything. And now you look back on it, that was silly. That was crazy. I mean, who wanted to shake shingles with the fire possibility and all that versus asphalt? You know? But that's the way things were back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. It's just been a great life. You know, we're really fortunate to come to this part of the world. My brother, when he got out of the Navy, came and lived with us for a while. And then he got married, and he and his wife bought a home. And then my parents came.
Mm-hmm.
We set them up in a duplex that I had purchased for a while, and then they ended up in a mobile home park down there. Our whole family just kind of merged into this area. And
That's awesome.
then our kids, of course, and their kids, and now we've got like I think 8 great grandkids. And,
Wow, that's amazing.
The Radakovitzes are
That's
expanding.
Great. That's awesome. Bill, is there anything in your life that at this point you can look back and say, I wish I would have done this different? Yeah.
I think there have been times over 62 years of marriage where the thought crossed my mind that maybe I should have gone in a different direction. You have disagreements and it's not always perfect. But I realized along the way how fortunate I was to have the support that I had with my wife. And she knew what she wanted. And I didn't realize the influence that she had on me until I was long in the tooth, as they say. I had gone along, and then I look back on it and I realized, she's the glue that kept everything together, including our kids and all the rest of it.
That is so important.
And she's always been willing to put out the effort that it took to make things happen for us. And so here we are, and got a great family and a great community. Can't ask for much more.
Do you think about things like legacy or how you want to be remembered?
No, I don't think about that. Hopefully people will appreciate the relationship that I've had along the way with them. Once you're gone, it's just a memory, and hopefully it's a good memory. You haven't made too many enemies along the way, You've done your best to make friends. And I think if you can maintain that over a period of years, things work out pretty well for you, But it's a lot of effort. Like, look at all that you and Katriana have done, Tatiana. The work that you've gone to. It hasn't been easy for you either, but you've done remarkably well, both of you.
Well, I don't see any other options.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to see changed in our town, Auburn?
Yeah. There are things I think that need to be done. Auburn, unfortunately, for many, many years, for a lot of people, has just been a pit stop on their way to Tahoe.
Yeah.
And it's such a jewel for Placer County. But all the development, all the growth, all the money and the influence and the votes are coming from South Placer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I feel like we're just kind of the stepchild out here. You know, we get whatever's left over. You know, we had an unfortunate situation recently with the theater. You know, the ceiling caved in, did a lot of damage, and it's going to take millions and millions of dollars to repair all that. So there was not what is the material that
Asbestos.
asbestos.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of asbestos in the ceiling, and that all had to be cleared out.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the county and asked if they could help, and the county contributed $1,500, and you know they've spent a lot of money on the county center out there, millions and millions of dollars, and it's kind of pitiful that all we were able to get to help with what we've got going on here, which is such an important part of downtown Auburn, is $1,500. But be that as it may, we're moving forward and trying to find people who are willing to help out and make that happen again. 'Cause it's been, I was on that board for a number of years, and it was a great theater at one time. It was two theaters. It was split down the middle with a wall.
Mm-hmm.
But one side was used just for storage. And there was actually a balcony there at one time. And that was torn out, and offices are in there now where the balcony used to be. But they just showed movies on the one side. Well, a group of us got together, and we ended up buying the building and tore out the wall and redid the whole thing inside.
Oh.
The theater, nonprofit organization, was formed, and they ended up reimbursing all of the investors several years later, like 10 years later or something. But we, in the meantime, were there in the pits down underneath, clearing out all the rubble and that was down below, getting rid of the rats. And I mean, the place was really in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful theater. And now this happened. So I'd really like to see that get fixed up. Colleen Sands has been, you couldn't ask for a better person to go out there and try to get the community involved. She's involved in so many other things.
She's awesome, yeah.
And I think Bob Richardson, when he was here as city manager,
Mm-hmm.
had a great deal to do with changes that took place downtown, redoing the streets and that big center, town center where you have the
logo,
the logo in the center. He, you know, he put all that together, and the theater. Len Gans came to town. He's from Canada, and his dad had a toy company, the Gans Toy Company, and he gave him $1 million and said, "Go to Auburn or go out into the world and make your way in the world." He ended up in Auburn, and he bought what was then the Auburn Hotel, and he converted it all over and fixed it up and put offices in. And they had a restaurant in there, restaurant and bar called Hummers, and the logo was a hummingbird, and it was really nice. And they had a great chef in there. We had wonderful dinners and great place after work to go for a drink or two. And then his dad came and said that he was tired of dumping money into this place. I guess at that point they had put like $3 million into it.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad came to see how it was going and saw that Doug and Tanya, who were friends of Len's from Canada, were running the restaurant and the bar. And he said, "I don't want that restaurant and bar here anymore. Get them out of here." And Len had to fire them. Now she's a teacher and he's a painting contractor. But they converted it all over into just offices. And we really missed that restaurant and that bar. It was great. But there's more things in the wings. We'll see more. I mean, people are finding out about Auburn, and money's coming here, and there are going to be changes. I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even us in the last couple of years, between me, Tatiana, and our agents on the team, we get some phone calls and people who are not from here, and they're debating between moving to Folsom,
Uh-huh.
which is in the Highway 50 corridor, or up here in Auburn. And a lot of them they like Auburn better than Folsom. And a lot of it is because of the kind of like a small town feel, but at the same time, all of the scenery, the access to the river, hiking, the trails. I mean, it's just
yeah.
beautiful, especially right now as we get closer to April. Like in the next 2 months, it's just gonna be looking beautiful with clear skies.
We've got that courthouse too that,
Yeah,
I mean,
historic. Yeah.
not too many like that around.
Mhm.
It's really a centerpiece for
And
Auburn.
and like even like we have 2 kids, and the things that this city, this town puts on during Christmas time, and other events, the 4th of July. It's great. We always my kids always look forward to that Old Town Christmas event that goes on in the Old Town. It's awesome.
And then, of course, Nancy and I, for the last 25 years, have been working with others to put on the Festival of Lights Parade. And
Yes.
for years, we did a lot of it ourselves, the lineup and everything. Now, we've got a lot of help, and we've actually brought in a couple that are going to kind of fill in for us. We backed off of that now, but it's been a lot of fun. We've had to, battle even snow. We had it snow one time. We were having the Festival of Lights Parade. The horses were slipping around on the snow coming down the hill on Lincoln Way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, there's so many things. That's the other thing about Auburn that I really like. There are so many opportunities for people to contribute and make friends and get involved, and people are always looking for somebody to help out with some kind of a project.
Yeah.
And just like Rotary, that's what we do.
Yeah. Yep. Bill, last question. We're in 2024, and this happens to be an election year, and we already mentioned, sort of this division that's going on in this country.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of this country? And do you believe that the better days are still ahead for America?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think, when we're giving money to people that are here illegally and not providing for our veterans and people here that have contributed already their whole life, we've got a big homeless problem. I don't see much being done about that. It's being left up to the locals. Although now with Proposition 1 going through, a lot of the money that the county had to solve that problem is being taken away by the state. And I don't know what their plans are, but I'm sure we're going to end up on the losing end on that deal. Plans that we had and money that we had available to do that now are going to be pulled out from underneath us. If it's up to the people, we'll do well.
I think those are the key words. If it's up to the people.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I have a feeling that the future is bright. I believe it. I'm hopeful. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen. But even, with all these terrible things that have happened in the last few years in this country, like our withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Ukraine situation, the illegal mass migration here into this country, I see that a lot of people are realizing that if this continues, it's going to be very, very bad. And I hope that more and more people are open their eyes and see what happens,
Yeah.
and just come together as a nation and change the course.
We do need a stronger leadership than what we've had. We need Reagan back again, probably, but that's
Well, yeah, but I think what you said there, it's if it's up to the people, and I think if it is up to the people, then I think,
hopefully the vote. We'll see how it turns out.
yeah.
I think there's an awful lot of unhappy people right now in this
Oh
country.
yes, oh yes,
And if it's up to them, I think it'll be okay.
yeah. Well, Bill, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Paul, for
It
inviting
was an
me.
honor. Say hello to Nancy. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on. Thank
Appreciate
you so
you
much.
giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.